Chief Palpatine, kind Chancellor of the Galactic Republic, let out a quiet sigh as he settled into his chair and slowly turned to gaze upon the gilded spires of Coruscant. He remained silent for a time, his eyes drifting across the planet's surface, lingering briefly on the Jedi Temple. He might have continued, using the moment of quiet to look beyond this shining world, beyond the star it orbited, but the presence of the other person in the room drew his attention. Palpatine turned to Mas Amida, who stood near his desk, watching him in silence. The Chargian still wasn't fully accustomed to seeing his true self. And when Darth Sidious spoke, the vice chair visibly twitched. "Speak your thoughts," the Dark Lord of the Sith commanded. The blue-skinned alien swallowed hard before replying. "I have my doubts," he admitted, and, encouraged by Sidious's gesture, continued. "The Tau are a new factor, one we neither fully understand nor can properly manipulate. I am uncertain whether we should allow the current crisis on Roon to continue." Sidious's expression briefly twisted into irritation, sending a flicker of fear through Mas Amida, before smoothing out again. "Crisis is what we need, my friend," he said, his voice shifting into Palpatine's warm, measured tone. "For my designs to come to fruition, instability is essential. The Tau and their allies will provide just that. Through their actions, much of the Outer Rim will be destabilized. The diplomats and the Jedi will prove themselves incapable of halting the bloodshed. The corporations will intensify their militarization, feeding fear in the core. And the Tau's lofty ideas, along with their expansion, will only strengthen the separatist movement." Darth Sidious smiled. "Those arrogant upstarts are, unwittingly, pushing the galaxy toward the state I desire." "I see." Mas Amida nodded slowly. "And what of the senators sent to stop this war? Some are your allies, even if only temporary ones." Sidious grimaced slightly. "Their influence will not suffer greatly," he said quietly. "I have foreseen it. Their efforts will fail, not through weakness, but because Bisat Kung is an overconfident tyrant who will not seek peace, no matter what is offered." "Then..." The vice chair hesitated, clearing his throat. "How should we proceed?" Palpatine smiled warmly. "For now, we must ensure the safety of our democracy. There are many frightened senators in the chamber, those who seek not only solutions, but guidance." His smile widened. "Guidance I shall humbly provide." They sat at the table, Aun Va on one side, all of them on the other. Padme Amidala had expected the Ethereal Supreme to summon members of the Watercast as advisors, yet he called for none. In fact, even the guide who had escorted them was dismissed. The only other Tau present were the guards, standing motionless around the chamber like statues. A chin ran down her spine. They were so still and so silent they could easily be mistaken for constructs. She would have expected such behavior from droids, not living beings. The longer she spent observing members of a fire caste, the more unnerving to her they became. The idea that those soldiers, loyal to this advanced, progress-seeking civilization, were basically a mirror image of Mandalorians in their warrior ways, chilled her to the bone. Thankfully, she had little time to dwell on it. Aun Va slowly lowered his cup onto the table and gave a faint shake of his head. "I cannot do what you ask of me," he stated plainly. "A great river does not stop when a boulder falls into its embrace." It was striking. Politicians often hid their decisions behind flowery words, half-truths and careful misdirection. Aun Va did not. As Padme was beginning to understand, he was not a politician. He was a philosopher, a spiritual guide to his entire civilization. Closer to a religious figure than a statesman. And as the leader of a commonwealth, he simply had no need to lie. "Please reconsider, Great Aun," Onaconda Farr urged. "The Tau come from the galaxy of war into one of peace. Let it not be them who bring war back into these stars." The Ethereal closed his eyes and calmly took a sip of tea. Unhurried, he set the cup down and looked at them once more, ancient wisdom gleaming in his silver eyes. "War existed among these stars long before our arrival, Senator," he replied. "When a lightning strikes a mountain and an avalanche shatters a forest, one may close their eyes and pretend otherwise, but it does not change the truth. The avalanche still falls. The trees are still broken." Padme grimaced. His cryptic answers reminded her of Master Yoda and a few other Jedi, though she had little interaction with them since Naboo. Garm Bel Iblis predictably tensed. "Are you accusing the Senate of ignorance?" he asked, his tone bordering on disrespect. Aun Va turned his gaze upon him, and Bel Iblis nearly buckled under it. They all felt it. The presence, the sheer weight of authority was overwhelming. According to official records, Aun Va was nearly 400 years old, and in his silver eyes they could see it all. Centuries of wisdom, pain and sacrifice. Every harsh decision made for the sake of the Commonwealth. As she felt it, Padme found herself questioning even the wisdom of Master Yoda. The Grand Master of the Jedi Order was more than twice Aun Va's age, yet he had lived through an era of relative peace and stability. Aun Va had endured centuries of war and hardship. Greater age did not necessarily mean greater wisdom. "I merely keep my eyes open," the ancient Tau replied, before turning his attention to his cup. The senators exchanged uncertain glances. They felt small, like a drifting rain cloud before a mountain.
"Great Aun,"
Plo Koon said, his voice calm and steady.
"Tell us, What would need to happen for you to recall your fleets and armies?
He paused briefly.
What would prevent this war?
Aunva considered for a moment, then set his cup down. Not counting the ultimatum, I presume. They all nodded. The ultimatum was not an option. Kong would never accept it. Governor Kong would need to reach out to the Commonwealth and offer terms we deem satisfactory. Aunva said evenly. We would demand his loyalty. Woon would become a protectorate, though he would remain its official ruler. Ravaks the Red would be surrendered to us as the one responsible. Our enslaved citizens would be freed and slavery on Roon abolished. Additionally, we would establish military bases within the system. The senators blinked in surprise. This was no idle speculation, this was a deal the Commonwealth was prepared to accept, and one Kong might agree to. As long as he retained his position and power, he would likely cooperate. But if you were willing to offer such terms, Far asked, perplexed, why not present them from the beginning? Kong would have accepted this, Bel Iblis added. So why issue an ultimatum? Aunva let out a quiet, disappointed sigh. The sound of a teacher faced with an unsatisfactory answer. Because when a predator strikes, one must become a predator as well, lest they become the prey. Aunva answered, not just to this predator, but to all. He intertwined his fingers. Many see us as prey, not only because of our appearance or our largely vegetarian diet, but because we seek peace and cooperation. Too quickly they forget that the most effective predators hunt in packs. They hear of the Tauva, the greater good, and mistake it for the ideology of herbivores. To seek the betterment of all instead of individual. To seek cooperation between species rather than conflict. They see a herd that abandons its wounded rather than a pack that hunts together to feed even its smallest and weakest members. Padme felt herself tense. The Ethereal Supreme had just described himself, and by extension the Commonwealth, as predators. That did not bode well. You surely understand that if we had shown leniency towards Governor Kong and his regime from the beginning, after suffering such a brutal attack, it would have been seen as nothing more than an invitation. Aunva continued, his words firm as a stone. An invitation for others of similar intent to strike at us. A harsh and decisive response was necessary. The Outer Rim shows no mercy to the weak. And if the Commonwealth is to endure here, we cannot be seen as such. Padme wanted to protest. She truly did. But could she? For most of her life she had lived on Naboo, a peaceful mid-rim world that in recent years had gained increasing prominence as the homeworld of Chancellor Palpatine. Her first true encounter with the harsh reality of the Outer Rim had been on Tatooine. Slavery, casual brutality, the ever-present cruelty of that world, she would never forget it. She steadied her breath. So, the path to peace lies in Governor Bisat Kong reaching out to the Commonwealth and offering a deal? She asked.
In a sense.
Aun Va nodded.
He stood behind the attack that began this conflict, and as such, it is he who must take the first meaningful step to end it. There is no other way.
There was finality in his voice. All of them understood this was not open for the debate.
So, we must wait and hope that Bail Organa can convince Kong to act,
Garm Bel Iblis said. Or we can do better than hope, Onaconda Far replied, rising to his feet. We can ensure he guides Kong towards that outcome. If you will excuse me, I must send a priority message. It will only take a moment.
Of course.
Aun Va inclined his head.
One of the guards will escort you back to your ship, so you may use your communicator. Our own network has not yet been fully adapted to your hyperspace systems.
Onaconda Far bowed his head and quickly departed, hurrying to, hopefully, avert the coming disaster. Padme used the moment to steady herself and regain her composure. This mission was proving far more difficult than she had anticipated.
As we wait,
Garm Bel Iblis began, his tone warning her he was about to prod a rancor with a far too short a stick.
What of this fourth sphere of expansion?
He asked, eyes narrowing. Aun Va did not appear affected by the question. He remained as he had been, an unmoving mountain, not a lurking beast. Padme tensed, but did not interrupt. She too wanted to understand the Commonwealth's intentions.
It's inseparable part of our doctrine, Senator Bel Iblis.
Aun Va replied calmly.
The Commonwealth must expand, whether through diplomacy or war. It is our duty as servants of the Tau Va to guide the lost, liberate the enslaved, feed the hungry, and shelter the homeless. All of which, regrettably, are abandoned in the Outer Rim.
He explained.
This is the path we walk.
Bel Iblis clenched his jaw.
So what you are saying is that even if we stop the crisis on Roon, another war is inevitable.
He shot back. Iblis! Padme hissed.
Forgive me, Senator Amidala, but I will not stay silent.
Bel Iblis said, rising from his seat.
How can we sit here and speak with those who openly admit they will wage war?
The Corellian senator demanded.
All those speeches about peace, were they lies? Empty words to convince us you were something other than an expansionist empire masquerading as a commonwealth?
The guard shifted subtly, clearly displeased with his tone. Aun Va's eyes narrowed by the slightest fraction, though his expression remained otherwise unchanged. An emotionless mask, in stark contrast to more expressive members of the water caste. Before Bel Iblis could continue, Plo Koon spoke, his voice like a cooling breeze, cutting through the tension.
I sense no deception from Ambassador Nyatel, nor from Seeker Lifesight, when they spoke of peace.
He said evenly.
Though it is possible they themselves were misled.
He turned his gaze towards Aun Va, studying him closely. Padme knew little of the Force, but she had no doubt the Jedi Master was probing for falsehoods, searching for any sign of deception as he awaited the Firiel's answer. Aun Va did not falter.
It is true but war is inevitable,
he said. Padme's heart sank.
But it is not inevitable because we desire it.
He continued, and she frowned slightly.
It cannot be avoided, because there are forces in the Outer Rim that will not tolerate our way of life.
There was a quiet sadness in his voice.
You already know this, even if you are not yet ready to accept it.
Garm Bel Iblis furrowed his brow in confusion. Plo Koon let out a heavy sigh, and Padme, Senator of Naboo, clenched her fists. Ugh, she understood. All too well. He is right, Iblis, she said quietly. The corporations, the Hutts, they see the Commonwealth as a rival to their dominance in the Outer Rim. She continued, her voice firm. And the Tau will not allow themselves to be stripped of their territories, not intimidated into submission. Aun Va inclined his head. His face remained a motionless mask of marble, yet there was unmistakable sadness in his eyes.
Indeed. In fact, some of our intelligence suggests that the Hutts were the ones whispering promises of wealth and glory into the ears of Bisat Kuong.
He revealed, glancing towards Bel Iblis.
If we were truly the warmongers you believe us to be, we would have already declared war upon the Hutts for this alone. But we have not, because while we do not fear war, we do not seek it.
Garm Bel Iblis staggered slightly before dropping back into his seat, eyes wide with shock. Padme felt her nails dig into her palms as her fist tightened further. The implication was chilling. The prospect of war between the Tau and the Hutts was...
That's not all,
Plo Koon said calmly. And in that moment, the world seemed to freeze. Padme turned to the Jedi Master in disbelief. Then she looked back to Aun Va and felt her heart sink as the Ethereal slowly nodded.
A week before your arrival, I was informed that a world once thought lost during the Great Displacement had been rediscovered, he said. Nimbosa, a contested world between us and the Imperium of Man. Its position has shifted relative to our own. Since then, I have received a steady stream of confirmations. More worlds, believed lost, have reappeared.
He paused briefly.
An hour before your arrival, I received confirmation of 2 more such worlds, Taros and Sarkassa.
He closed his eyes for a long moment.
After this meeting, I will contact your Chancellor and inform him that the possibility of hostile powers from our galaxy crossing into yours is no longer theoretical. It is certain.
Padme went still as she recalled the reports. Missing ships in the Helios sector. Beside her, Garm Bel Iblis muttered curses under his breath, switching between at least 3 different languages.
Why weren't we informed sooner?
He demanded.
We sought to avoid widespread panic,
Aun Va replied, his tone cold and measured.
Our containment protocols have held. Orc territories within our borders were contained. Contested worlds secured. Or So we believed.
He shook his head.
With each passing week, more stars appear on our charts. Many of them in wrong places.
He glanced at them.
The great displacement is still ongoing. Our assumption that it had ended was incorrect.
A chill settled over the room.
The anomaly did not merely warp space, it distorted time as well. Worlds thought lost are reappearing, but not where they should be. Their relative positions have shifted. Some we contacted believe themselves to be weeks in the past, or weeks into the future. Others have reappeared inverted, the axis of the entire system flipped as if it were nothing.
He exhaled quietly.
I fear we have yet to grasp even a fraction of a true extent of a great displacement.
Padme felt her head spin. This defined everything. It mocked the very laws of physics, time, of reality itself. The great displacement alone had been unimaginable, an anomaly capable of transporting entire star systems across galaxies, perhaps even across realities. But the thought that it was not dormant, that it was still active, it was overwhelming.
This may explain why the Force is so difficult to interpret in this region,
Plo Koon muttered, glancing at the senators.
We had our suspicions, but believed it to be only a lingering echo of the displacement.
Aun Va nodded.
The Psykers of the Commonwealth reported similar instability. Only now do we understand the scale of the disturbance. At this point, we believe our containment measures are insufficient.
He paused.
There may be entire Imperial subsector or splinters of a Hive fleet out there, and we might not discover them until it is too late.
Padme's throat went dry. Images of war, devastation and horrors from the other galaxy flooded her thoughts. Most vividly, the terrifying Adeptus Astartes.
I will contact the Council,
Plo Koon said.
We will cooperate with the Commonwealth, launch expeditions into the affected regions to identify potential threats. That would be greatly appreciated, Master Plo Koon.
Aun Va replied with a slight nod.
We must identify all threats displaced alongside us, and they must be contained or destroyed.
He turned his gaze toward Garmbel Iblis.
That is another reason we do not seek war with the powers of this galaxy. What is cruelty of the Hutts or the greed of the corporations compared to the endless hunger of the Tyranids or the bloodlust of the Orcs?
The Corellian senator let out a quiet, hollow sound, as if struck in the gut. The fire that had filled him moments before was gone, extinguished, leaving only fading embers. Aun Va then turned to Padme.
The forces that would bring endless war may already be among these stars,
he said.
But do not fear. The Tau stand with you. We stand for peace.
His voice remained calm, unwavering.
We will stop them. no matter the cost. By the Tau Va, it shall be so.
The bridge of the Herald of Prophet was a sight to behold. Layers of consoles and control stations set among marble columns and frescoed ceilings. Banners from dozens of warfronts, campaigns and crusades hung proudly, each marking a chapter in the Grand Cruiser's 5,000-year history. Dane Marek exchanged brief nods with several crew members before approaching the command throne. He stopped before it and knelt, lowering his head. "You took your time," his master remarked with a soft chuckle. Lady Captain Francesca Dominica Blackthorn looked down at him from her seat. At her feet rested a pair of great alien cats, Virgil and Rex. She leaned forward slightly, the cables linking her spine and skull to the command throne stretching with a faint whisper. Dane remained silent, still kneeling, unflinching beneath his mistress's scrutiny. "It's good to see you again, Marek," the rogue trader said at last. "Rise."
"Thank you, my lady,"
Dane replied, standing.
"It's good to be home."
"I'm sure it is," she said, leaning back as the cables relaxed with a quiet sigh. "He is pleased to have you back as well, both of you." They nodded in understanding. Through her connection to the ship, she communed with its machine spirit. None understood the Herald of Prophet better than its captain, and no one knew the captain better than the ship.
"How is he?"
Dane asked.
"Last I've heard, hunting orcs had proven a rather dull assignment."
Francesca scoffed, and Dane could have sworn the vessel itself echoed the sentiment. "My dear husband is eager for war," she said. "Even if this coming battle is little more than an appetizer, it will serve as a fitting prologue to what lies ahead." Her fingers traced the armrest of her throne with unmistakable affection. Dane nodded, his gaze drifting briefly to the golden ring on her finger, the one she never removed, and then to many others embedded in the floor alongside the names of past captains. Generations of command, stretching back to Rosaline the Restorer, all the way to his mistress.
"I doubt Scarif will pose much of a challenge,"
he said, glancing out into the void.
"It's a pirate haven, only a handful of small ships in orbit. The Herald could crush them without effort."
His eyes shifted to the other vessels of a blooming fleet.
"Which makes me wonder, why do we need escorts at all?"
It was a fair question, and one he did not like asking. The Herald of Prophet was a formidable vessel, more than capable of operating alone. If it required an escort, the implications were troubling. Francesca smiled and beckoned him closer. He obeyed, stepping carefully around Virgil, who did not so much as glance in his direction as he leaned in. "We found Zepharia," she whispered. "The world lives." Only years of discipline kept Dane from reacting.
What? But we found it. It was dead, my lady, stripped of all life, nothing but ruins and bones. He whispered, "How is that possible?"
Mira believes it's the warp's doing. Francesca replied just as quietly. The great displacement carried us into another galaxy, perhaps even another reality, and the process is neither clean nor complete. We believe the storm duplicated Zephyria. One version died, the other was misplaced. Understanding dawned on Dane, and his expression darkened.
Are we expecting company on our way to Scarif?
He asked in a low voice. The Fringe was a cesspit even before it was cast into this galaxy, Francesca said. Constant conflict between the Tau and the Imperium, orc wags, space hulks, tyrannid high fleets. Even the servants of the Dark Gods carved out dominions of their own. If the displacement can't do this... She shook her head slightly. There is no telling what may be out there, just beyond our borders.
Dane nodded grimly. The mere possibility that the warp storm could duplicate an Imperial Crusade, an Orc Wag, or, worse, a Tyrannid High Fleet, was enough to make even his scarred skin crawl.
The entire Commonwealth is on high alert, the Lady Captain continued. Patrols are being doubled, as are exploratory expeditions into the void. My astropaths are listening for anything, but the displacement continues to disrupt communication. Echoes of old signals, distorted voices, even the roars of the worlds consumed by the warp bleed through. Even with warp travel more stable than ever, the disturbance in the fabric remains severe.
A cruel irony, Dane muttered. Any idea when it will subside?
Soon, we hope, Francesca said, assuming another storm does not sweep through the region.
Hopefully, he echoed.
She straightened slightly, her voice rising just enough to signal a shift in topic. So, you believe taking orbital control will be simple. What of a surface?
With our current forces, we should secure it quickly,
Dane replied, folding his arms.
Especially with Trios insisting on joining the assault.
Francesca smiled faintly. A rare thing for him to willingly take to a planetary battlefield, she said. But you're right, with him present, it should not be difficult engagement. Silence lingered for a moment. The Lady Captain studied Dane, knowing he had more to say. He grimaced, still unsettled by how easily she could read him. Even the Inquisitor had never managed it so well.
I want Lina to join me, he said at last. She is old enough and trained. This skirmish would be a suitable introduction to the battlefield.
Francesca considered, only briefly. She is 16, she said. I slew my first orc at that age. She nodded. Very well, she will accompany you, but Magmar goes with you. If any real threat arises, he will sense it and drag you both out of a fire. Dane narrowed his eyes slightly.
A pun, my lady?
The corner of her lips twitched, just enough to irritate you.
My congratulations on yet another victory,
Dane replied dryly.
Shall I commission a banner to commemorate the occasion?
She smacked his arm lightly and shook her head. You are fortunate I appreciate your sense of humor. Now, go, rest, and prepare. We depart for the system's edge in 30 minutes.
Dane bowed his head. As you command, Lady Captain.
He left the bridge and made his way to his quarters. As he reached his chambers, a familiar tremor ran through the ship as its engines roared to life. The Herald of Prophet broke orbit, accompanied by the vessels of a dynastic fleet. Dane paused as the doors to his chamber sealed behind him, feeling the familiar thrill stir within him. The anticipation of battle, of war yet to come. Soon, he murmured, to himself and to the ship. Soon we will be at war once more. With orbit secured, and the enemy fleet either destroyed or in full retreat, we will commence the sunburst bombardment to neutralize enemy anti-air installations. Precision kinetic strikes and EMP warheads will target concentrations of enemy forces and fortified positions not protected by energy shields. Koro Isfamang, Stormhammer, explained, moving the hologram of Roon across the table. The Admiral wore the pale green uniform of Furious Sept, his face carved like a stone. He radiated tension, almost eagerness, as he detailed his vision of an orbital engagement. Kouka listened intently. Success in orbit would dictate the ease of a ground campaign. In the worst-case scenario, we will deploy several ice-fire warheads. The Admiral continued. Sufficient to disable all advanced technology on the surface for weeks. Kouka flinched. Ice-fire warheads were among the Tau's more potent superweapons. EMP devices capable of blanketing entire continents in crippling energy pulses, annihilating infrastructure and advanced machinery alike. But these are weapons of last resort, Stormhammer clarified. With our current forces and the reserve fleet from Viorla, I see no scenario in which Roon cannot be secured by Commonwealth forces. Kouka cleared her throat.
Goro,
She said, gesturing at the hologram.
I'm not fully versed in the mechanics of void travel, but why is our fleet scheduled to arrive scattered across the system? Surely the ships could jump in formation, closer to the enemy fleet, to keep element of surprise on our side.
The Admiral exchanged glances with several officers, then, unexpectedly, looked toward Aung Sun Ho, the Ethereal overseeing final preparations from her elevated platform. The Ethereal made a sign of truth revealed. Isfamang bowed deeply to the Ethereal before addressing the commanders again. The scattered arrival is intentional, he announced. Fleet commanders understand why, but the wider truth will not remain secret for long. He gestured to the Earthcast representative. You should explain, Fio Elan Ai. The broad-shouldered strong hand stepped forward, exhaling steadily before speaking bluntly, as only an Earthcast could.
A critical flaw has been discovered in the slipstream drive.
he said. A ripple of murmurs spread through the gathered leaders.
The slipstream drive creates a bubble of antimatter around the ship, forming a semi-stable wormhole that collapses once the vessel reaches its destination.
Elan I continued.
Unlike the warp drive, which tears through reality into a dimension where the laws of physics and time are fluid, the slipstream bends and stretches reality without tearing it.
He let out a quiet sigh and closed his eyes.
What we did not anticipate was the interaction between slipstream and warp drives,
he said, voice tightening.
The flaw became evident when a Gwyla Corsair warship jumped alongside experimental slipstream vessels. The effect was catastrophic.
He shuddered.
An unstable vortex formed at the jump site. It collapsed roughly 10 hours later. The ships were torn apart. Many parts were never recovered. Only about 1% of the crew survived, most of them traumatized or rendered mentally unstable.
Dead silence filled the chamber like a poisonous gas.
Folding reality creates a tension in the fabric of the universe, and when the warp drives tear a hole into this stretched fabric, the effect is extremely destructive. From subsequent simulations, we determined that if activated side by side, the interaction between the two drives will create an unstable wormhole with no clear destination. All ships caught in the vortex will almost certainly be lost, with all hands.
He inhaled deeply before continuing.
The mass of the ships, their number, the distance between them, and the timing of the jumps all are critical in avoiding disaster. Fabric of reality seals the gaping wounds created by the warp drives and relaxes the tension created by a slipstream drive, returning to a natural state. The time required to do so depends on the ships involved and their combined mass. We have calculated safe limits. That is why the Liberation Fleet will travel as planned and why no battleships are included in this task force. The mass of a single battleship introduces too many variables for our current safety calculations.
Koka felt her blood turn into ice as she turned her unbelieving eyes onto Sure Strike, who stood by her side.
But that would mean...
She started, but didn't need to finish. If this flaw had gone undiscovered, Sure Strike interjected, stepping forward. The entire 4th expansion fleet would have been lost. The words hung in the chamber, the vision that the entirety of a 4th expansion fleet, thousands upon thousands of vessels, obliterated in an instant. It was a vision beyond comprehension. Many opened their mouths to speak, but Sure Strike hit the table with his fist, his eyes burning away all voices, leaving scorched silence behind. We will not discuss what-ifs in this chamber, he commanded, his voice a blade cutting through hesitation. Nor will I hear talk of luck. We are here to ensure that the first steps of a new 4th sphere of expansion succeed, that our Commonwealth grows, and that none doubt the inescapable destiny of a greater good. Is that understood? Voices muttered their agreement. No one dared to challenge the overall commander of the operation. Satisfied, SureStrike pressed a few buttons. The holographic table shifted focus from orbit and the enemy fleet to the planet's surface. With a gesture, he beckoned the ground force commanders forward. To his right stepped representatives of a Serantok Mercantile League. Foreign Oathcarver led the pair, standing proud in his power armor. A stylized heraldry and personal shield generator shaped like a twin dragon heads rose above his bald head. His eyes were fierce, but not unkind. A thin trail of fragment smoke drifted from a pipe he held lightly in his fingers, curling through the chamber like a molten stream. Thorin was a Khal, leading the entire expedition and the highest-ranking member of the League present. An Aronkin named Lossi accompanied him, acting as his second-in-command. Next was Tenochiro, representing Terrellian clans. He was a giant, towering over everyone in the room. His armor stylized as that of a knight, with prayers and symbols of faith to the goddess marking almost every piece of it. Koka felt a mixture of awe and unease in his presence. Half of his face was marred by deep burn scars, and one eye had turned a sickly white. Yet for all his injuries, the lethality he radiated was unmistakable. A helmet of Gweron Shah, one of the salamanders, hung on his belt. It wasn't a trophy. The helmet was transformed into a death whistle that Tarelian used to announce his fury and the upcoming death of his enemies. Then there were Pavukhani, a less-known member of the Commonwealth. Arachnid in form, they walked on 4 long legs, while manipulating tools and weapons with 4 dexterous arms. Nomadic and Voidborn, they were a recent addition to the Commonwealth Alliance. TrueStrike had never served alongside them before. Their leader, Zarin Ka, clad in ornate blue armor, stood upside down on the ceiling, observing the holographic map from above. Koka raised a skeptical eyebrow, but remained silent. The Commonwealth had long encountered strange and exotic species. Walking upside down was hardly worth comment.
Roon is sparsely populated, SureStrike announced, his voice sharp and authoritative. The planet has roughly 700,000 inhabitants, including citizens, slaves, and temporary residents. By imperial classification, it is a frontier world. Nearly half the population resides in the capital, Town Tomb. The hologram zoomed in on a modest city surrounding a massive volcano. The city is powered by impressive geothermal generators. SureStrike continued. They provide energy not only for the population, but also for strong energy shields and several heavy anti-orbital cannons. His hand moved, and the image focused on the volcano and the fortress built into its side. This is Town Tomb Fortress, the seat of Governor Kong and the center of Roon High Command. Securing it is our top priority. If Fortress falls, so does the capital, and with it, the world.
What of the other settlements?
Tenochiro asked, his deep voice resonant.
There are numerous small towns and villages, as well as mercenary and corporate outposts. Several have been designated secondary objectives for the Liberation Campaign.
SureStrike explained.
Most are lightly fortified. Where additional support is required, the Roon Liberation Front, a friendly rebel group, will be reinforced by our forces to secure these objectives.
What about the defenders?
Lossi asked.
What can we expect from the opposition?
The natives of Roon, the military defense forces, are little more than a militia. Sure Strike replied. They number around 20,000 soldiers, even after being reinforced with mercenaries, volunteers, and elements of the local security forces.
A pitiful display.
Lossi said in mechanical voice. Indeed, Sure Strike agreed. The militia poses minimal threat. Their numbers, equipment, and training are extremely limited. Roughly what one would expect from a Frontier World PDF. But they are not our real concern. The true danger comes from the droid armies deployed by a corporation aligned with Governor Kong. With a wave of his hand, he summoned images of several droids, each of them marked P1, Droideka, IG series. Our intelligence and local reports indicate over 1 million droids on the surface. Sure Strike continued, with current estimates putting the number at roughly 1.2 million. A murmur rippled through the chamber, but he silenced it with a raised hand. Do not be intimidated. Most of these droids lack independent thought. Without orbital support, and with their signals jammed, they will follow only basic programming. An individual B1 is less capable than an Imperial Guard conscript. Several officers chuckled. Zaren Ha clicked in curiosity, expressing keen interest. With the skies under our control, the Pavukhani said, his tone almost melodic. We could descend upon them like a storm of lightning. But I understand there are more droids hidden aboard the Lacra Hulks. Yes, Sure Strike confirmed. While the ships in orbit do not carry their full complement of ground forces, they could deploy over 3 million droids in total, if necessary.
Then why don't they?
Oath Carver asked, exhaling a stream of fragment smoke.
What restrains them?
Pride and overconfidence. Sure Strike said. The defenders assume our fleet cannot secure orbit completely. Even if we land through contested space, they believe they can redeploy their forces as needed. So, the bulk of their army remains in orbit.
And pride will be their downfall.
Tenochiro muttered, a growl laugh escaping him. Indeed. Sure Strike replied, turning back to the hologram. Now to the assault itself. He cleared his throat, commanding attention. Our leading doctrine will not be Mont'ka or Kauyon, he announced, shocking several Tau in the chamber. Our meta-strategy shall be Rip Ika. Kuka blinked in surprise. Rip Ika, the 1,000 daggers, was a doctrine of overwhelming, cumulative strikes, far less known and far less popular than Mont'ka or Kauyon.
A bold doctrine.
She noted, looking at her master.
So, how do you intend to enact it?
Sure Strike met her gaze briefly, eyes full of lethal conviction, before returning to the holographic map. The ground battle will proceed in phases. He began. Phase 1. Under the cover of sunburst bombardments and kinetic strikes on known strongholds, Monad stealth teams will infiltrate enemy lines. They will coordinate with the rebels, sabotaging or marking critical defensive positions for precise destruction. Phase 2. The vanguard and rebel forces strike exposed positions,
cutting the capital off from reinforcements and securing landing zones. Coordinated airstrikes will keep enemy forces occupied as the main assault lands. Phase 3. Main forces touch down. Following Rin-Yon doctrine, all key defensive positions will be enveloped and isolated. Any attempted breakthroughs will be countered by pathfinders and airstrikes. Most defenders, confined to the capital, will likely remain behind energy shields, confident in their fortifications. Phase 4. Unshielded bastions and outposts will be neutralized with rebel assistance. Those deemed too costly to take by force will be destroyed from orbit and air. Remaining locations should surrender quickly. Phase 5. Forces able to breach the capital's energy shield will tighten the encirclement. The shields of this galaxy disable anti-grav technology, so battlesuits and appropriate vehicles will take their positions inside, while hover units remain outside, maintaining pressure on the defenders. Phase 6. Coordinated strikes by rebels and stealth teams within the city will destroy critical defensive systems. Shield generators, communications, anti-air emplacements and hardpoints will be either destroyed or marked for destruction. Seeker missiles and direct fire will eliminate key installations, shattering enemy cohesion. Phase 7. With shields down, a full assault from above begins. Battlesuits, jetpack troopers, Vespid auxiliaries, and drop pods strike dozens of positions simultaneously, overwhelming defenses, shattering coordination, and whatever command system that will still be at play. As the aerial assault commences,
Sure Strike was about to continue when a new, deeper, unnerving voice spoke. One so devoid of emotions, other than contempt, that it awakened some kind of primal fear in everyone in the chamber. A dedicated monad force shall infiltrate Tauntum Fortress directly, tasked with capturing or eliminating Governor Kong and Roon High Command. If successful, Governor Kong and Roon's military leadership will be forced to announce their unconditional surrender and send the activation signal to all remaining droids. Koka's skin crawled, not from irritation at the apparent disrespect, but from fear. She glanced towards the speaker, a lone Tau commander, half hidden in shadow, standing apart from the rest. His crimson eyes glowed like molten primordial fire from which all Firecast were made of. For all the exemplary training and valor of a Firecast, none inspired such instinctive terror as this one. This was not merely a Tau, not merely a warrior, not merely a follower of Monat. This was a living weapon. Every second she felt he was running calculations, scenarios for how to kill everyone in the room. Perhaps sparing only the ethereal. But her, a fellow Firecast, just another target, another corpse in waiting, another variable in the machine of death he embodied. The dark legacy of Montau, the age of terror, was alive in those eyes, a single-minded hunger to kill and destroy. Indeed. Sure Strike confirmed, his voice betraying the faintest tremor. Once the droids are deactivated or left without orders, mop-up operations will commence, followed by securing the provisional government and the people of Roon. Any questions? Questions came from many corners of the chamber, and Sure Strike answered them all, clarifying the plan and detailing how the liberation would unfold. Koka listened intently, asking several herself, all while acutely aware of the silent predator observing her from the shadows. I'm sorry, Master Plo, Ram Kota said bitterly, but Bizad Kong is deaf to all reason. He is convinced that Tau are bluffing. Nothing is getting through to him. Plo Koon let out a quiet sigh. Creatures like Kong, with fragile egos and overblown confidence, ignored clear threats rather than admit mistakes.
What of Senator Organa?
He asked. Frustrated, Kota replied, but less determined to stop this war. Seeing the governor's cruelty firsthand tempered his enthusiasm.
What of your enthusiasm?
Jedi Master asked. Kota grimaced, pausing before speaking. Though he had proven himself a capable Jedi, his pessimism ran deep, just as his distrust towards the Tau. I believe it should be the Republic and the Jedi who free Roon, he answered through gritted teeth. There is a part of me glad that the Tau are intervening, but my instincts warn me this is the start of something far larger, far more brutal. The Tau have to be stopped before they gain any momentum, because if they do, we won't be able to stop them, not without throwing mountains of bodies in their path. Plo Koon understood. Despite the fog in the Force, he felt it too. A war was coming, one unprecedented in scale, and the Tau would be entangled in it. He was about to answer when he felt it again. The whisper of immense power brushed against him, overwhelming yet, curiously, hidden. Kota noticed the twitch in his master's demeanor. Master?
I share your concerns, Kota,
Plo Koon admitted.
but the Order serves the Senate, and the Senate isn't interested in Roon. There are enough crises within our own borders, and no number of Jedi can resolve them all,
he answered. And it was true. Since the Naboo crisis, whispers of discontent were growing louder and louder. Some even spoke about seceding from the Republic entirely. And no matter how many Jedi were sent out, they couldn't stop it all. He shook his head, refocusing on the present.
Will you depart Roon?
Yes, Bail Organa suggested Yukio as the rendezvous point. It's nearby, part of the Republic, and their government can facilitate humanitarian aid. From Yukio, senators can coordinate both diplomatic and relief efforts, whichever side prevails.
And the Supreme Chancellor?
Palpatine is currently tied up in diplomatic talks with Umbara, another trade dispute. Kota explained. Organa proposes we move to Ukyo immediately and inform the Chancellor when possible. The journey won't take more than 8 hours. Plo Koon frowned.
Which leaves us a full 24 hours before the ultimatum expires.
Indeed, Kota replied. Organa believes that will be more than enough time to prepare humanitarian aid, ready to deploy the moment hostilities end.
Very well,
Plo Koon said.
I shall inform Senator Medalla and her team about this development. You should contact the Jedi Council. They will want to hear your report.
But, Master, shouldn't you deliver the news? The young knight asked. Plo Koon smiled beneath his mask.
Perhaps I should, but my seniority allows me to pass this task to a younger colleague.
Ramkota raised an eyebrow, then chuckled. I will remember this lesson in the future, he said, his expression hardening after the brief moment of humor. We shall see each other soon, master. Plo Koon nodded and switched off the communicator. The comm station was secure and encrypted, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the Tau were listening, despite every precaution. Stepping out into the cool air, he saw the first hints of dawn in the east. The long night was finally giving way to day. He moved quickly through the spire to the room where the diplomatic delegation and Aun Va waited. The senators looked at him expectantly, clinging to the hope that war might still be averted. Aun Va, the Ethereal Supreme, needed no such hope. He knew the message Plo Koon carried. Decades of Jedi training, his mask, even his alien appearance, could not hide the truth from this ancient being.
Governor Kong refused to listen to reason,
Plo Koon announced.
Senator Bail Organa chose Yukio as the meeting point, where both teams can reconvene and provide humanitarian aid after the battle.
The tension that bound the senators together slackened. They slouched under the weight of a failure. Padme Amidala in particular looked deeply pained. He understood why. She had fought tirelessly to prevent bloodshed, only to face this outcome. To their surprise, it was Aun Va who spoke first.
I am sorry your hopes regarding Governor Kong's wisdom were misplaced,
he said quietly.
Even so, I am humbled by your dedication to peace in this galaxy. Do not see this as failure, but as a lesson, not for you, but for the tyrants of the Outer Rim. They refused the language of diplomacy, and so much experience the language of war. Perhaps in the future, they will be wiser and listen to your words.
Plo Koon hid his unease at the weight of those words. The senators, however, seemed eager to hear praise, or perhaps clung to a faint hope that future conflicts might be resolved with words alone. Thank you, great Aun Va, Amidala said, rising. We are grateful you met us personally and were open to peace talks. Onaconda Far added, bowing. We will be sure to inform the Senate of your stance.
Hopefully, we won't meet under such circumstances again,
Garm Bel Iblis added.
I hope so as well,
Aun Va replied.
Now please, do not let me stop you. Yukio awaits. We will send messages when the battle concludes, so you may deliver aid to the surface.
Senators glanced at each other.
You do not expect that Roon will be able to resist,
Bel Iblis pointed out. Aun Va's mask remained unreadable, but his words carried the inevitability of nature itself.
A rotten tree falls when met with a storm, Senator Bel Iblis. It must fall so that new, younger, stronger trees may grow in its place. Such are the laws of nature. The fall of Roon is as certain as the sunrise, and from this long night a new Roon will rise, a sight to behold. This I promise you.
The senators exchanged glances once more, then bowed their heads to the Ethereal Supreme. Plo Koon following suit a moment later. We thank you for your hospitality, great Aun Va. If you allow, we shall take our leave, Amidala said, her tone measured and respectful. The ancient ethereal inclined his head.
May the tides of destiny carry you to where and when you are needed.
He proclaimed, then turned and walked back toward his garden. Taking the dismissal as final, the delegation returned to the diplomatic barge. Moments later, they lifted off, the rising sun catching the polished silver surface of the vessel and scattering light across the spire. As they ascended, Plo Koon's eyes narrowed toward the planet below. He thought he saw a figure clad in black standing on one of the balconies, watching them depart. But certainty eluded him. The force offered no clarity here, remaining twisted and murky. Not long after, hyperspace swallowed them, carrying them swiftly towards the Yukio and the inevitable battle that awaited. The calm before the storm stretched out before them, but all knew it would not last. Mar Tuk was running through one of the combat scenarios when the alarm blared across the bridge.
Captain, anomalous readings at the edge of the system,
a crewman reported.
far from any known hyperlane exits.
Tuk stifled a scoff. As predicted, the civilization that didn't use hyperdrives for travel didn't politely appear where they were expected. Admiral Garamo Rock had been a fool, and soon they would pay for his arrogance.
All forces on high alert.
Tuk barked.
Starfighter squadrons ready for deployment in 10 minutes or less. Bring up long-range scanners and display a full hologram of a system. I want to see exactly where our enemies come from.
Moments later, the holographic map illuminated the bridge. Tuk frowned. The enemy ships were exiting with their form of FTL far from the planet, scattered and uncoordinated.
They approach from a completely open flank.
He muttered, brow furrowed.
If they had jumped closer, they could have caught us off guard. Why didn't they?
Before he could ponder further, Admiral Rock's hologram flickered into existence. The enemy has finally arrived, though scattered and unorganized. Rock sneered. Fall into defensive formation. These fools will run the moment they realize the might of our combined forces. Tuk could somewhat understand Admiral's overconfidence. The fleet amassed above Roon was formidable. Aside from the Trade Federation contingent, Roon had deployed its own forces, including an Invincible-class dreadnought, a relic from the High Republic era, still dangerous by the Outer Rim standards. Other corporations and cartels like Techno-Union, Commerce Guild, and even the Intergalactic Banking Clan sent out their own forces as well, including the mercenaries and criminal elements aligned with Kong and his regime. More than 100 vessels now patrolled the skies above Roon. Most couldn't compete with Lucrehawks or Munificent-class frigates individually, but their sheer numbers made for a daunting defensive line. As his section of the fleet moved into position, Mar Tuk continued to observe the seemingly uncoordinated arrival of the Commonwealth forces. The ships emerged in small groups, spaced far apart, with long pauses between each wave. Yet, the moment they appeared, they moved with precision. Each vessel took its assigned position in the line formation, prepared for this battle. With every group that joined the formation, Tuk felt unease growing in his chest. The Commonwealth fleet was outnumbered, undeniably. Less than 40 ships faced the combined might of fleets gathered above Roon. But in tonnage, the fleets were nearly equal. He swallowed hard as he saw the enemy warships, massive, purpose-built vessels that dwarfed his Lacra Hulk. Unlike his own ship, these were not civilian hulls retrofitted for war, but true instruments of destruction. Took clicked a few buttons and brought Lusros Dauphine into holographic form. The captain commanding the right flank shared his unease openly. "Where is the Herald of Profit?" Dauphine asked. "Reports had it in Furious Ned, leaving shortly before the rest of the fleet. It seems Blackthorns found a better target," Took said, rubbing his chin. "Even without them, this is a formidable force, though I did notice something." "And what would that be?" Dauphine prompted, raising an eyebrow. "No battleships, no dreadnoughts," Took observed. "Any idea why they didn't deploy them?" "I suspect, like the Mandator class dreadnoughts, they are too slow and reserved for defensive operations," Dauphine answered. "But what do you—" His question was cut off as the console beeped sharply. A crewman turned towards Took. "Captain, enemy fleet is broadcasting on all channels, sir." Took glanced at Dauphine, who gave a small, tense nod. "On screen." Moments later, a figure appeared. A tall commander in blue armor with orange robes, adorned with the symbols of the Commonwealth. His gaze swept over them with fire and contempt. "I am Chasseur Satsia Nekka, Commander Surestrike, High Commander of a 4th Sphere of Expansion and Rune Liberation Task Force of the Commonwealth," he declared, voice cold and precise. "Governor Bisat Kong and his regime have refused our ultimatum. The 4-day deadline expires in 20 minutes. But we know the Tyrant of Rune will not yield. Pride and overconfidence have blinded him." His eyes burned into the camera as his voice sharpened. "But his downfall doesn't need to be yours. Flee, and you shall be spared. Remain, and you shall be destroyed. This is the mercy of Ethereals, in accordance with the Tau Va." He leaned in close, his eyes burning. "So run, or pray to your gods. Maybe they will hear your screams." And with that ominous declaration, the transmission cut abruptly. Took glanced at Dauphine, ready to speak, when another alarm blurred across the bridge. "Captain, enemy starfighters are deploying! They are forming ahead of the fleet!" A sensor operator shouted, voice tight with apprehension. I don't think they are bluffing, sir!" "No, they are not," Took confirmed, pushing away any lingering doubt. "Deploy our starfighters in defensive formation. All crew to battle stations. Sound combat alert." He gave Dauphine a sharp glance. "Good luck holding the right flank. And you make sure the left doesn't collapse." Dauphine replied with a terse nod before his hologram winked out. Took sank into his command chair, eyes sweeping over the void as Lucre Hulks disgorged squadrons of starfighters in relentless flood. Hundreds, then thousands of droid starfighters filled the void like a steel storm made manifest. With a few precise clicks, Took brought up a countdown timer, all the moments remaining until the ultimatum expired. Minute by minute, the combined fleets assumed formation. Starfighters took to the skies, crews braced at the stations, weapons primed. Optimism stirred for a brief moment, Numbers, coordination, and preparation all favored them. But the moment passed, the instant the timer hit 0. For 3 endless seconds, each stretching into eternity, silence reigned. The void seemed to hold its breath. Then, in perfect synchrony, every Commonwealth starfighter and bomber surged forward. A second later, nearly every enemy warship launched massive missiles, streaking light and fire towards the defending fleet. The Battle of Roon had begun. Here we are, ladies and gents. The Battle of Roon, the finale of Season 1, is finally here. It took a moment, it has to be said, but real life did keep me busy. Hopefully I will be able to cut the battle into smaller chunks, so that you will get shorter but more action-intense episodes more often. Now, first things first, I would like to thank all of you for reaching 11,000 subscribers. I am truly grateful for your support. And even more importantly, not long ago we had 1 year anniversary of this series. Indeed, my friends, Star Wars X Warhammer 40k is already 1 year old. They grow up so fast. Which is why I created a promo code SWXWH40k 1 year for my merch shop. Everything is 30% off. Hurry up, only a limited number of people will get a chance to use it. A link in the pinned comment below. All money gathered through merch and coffee will go into improving this channel and commissioning art pieces for this series. Next, I would like to extend my thanks to people who voiced characters in this episode. Tia Boba, also known as Luffy, returns as Commander True Strike. On top of that, several fans of the series voiced other characters. Chaosmancer55, who most of you know as the voice of sinister Sinrine Spider, voiced Strongarm, the representative of the Earthcast. Alex Farkas voiced Tenochiro, the Tarelian Paladin. And Gordon519 summoned all Scottish blood in his veins to voice Thorin Oathcarver, the leader of the Space Dwarfs. I need to thank the artists as well. Hayden Lumpkin, 3D Vincents, Makawi and Kubik Curator. It's thanks to your hard work and incredible talent that I can show my story through images as much as through words. Special thanks go to my highest tier patron supporters. Heimko, Boromir117, Erisda9, Psab, Cell, Josh Travis, and Michael Pelson. You are all truly magnificent. Now I will need to rush something for April 1st, and I hope I will manage to get it done in time. Don't expect anything too impressive, as time is short, but I will try to make it fun. Anyway, as usual, if you have questions, put Q&A on top of your comment and ask them. If you have a suggestion for a short, a small scene or an idea, put short in top of a comment and write it down. 1 Q&A and 1 short per person. If you post more than one of either, all will be ignored. All clear? I hope so. Do tell me your thoughts on this episode as well. I put quite a bit of work into it. I know that my story is a bit of a slow burn, and the build-up to Battle of Roon was significant, but it had to be done. I didn't want to rush things, so I hope you enjoyed the scenes in this episode, and several of more interesting revelations. But I think that's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed. Now, my dear viewers and listeners, remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, try to enjoy yourself while you can. I wish you most critical day. Ta-ta!